SID Davis. And we were just talking about the new robots that are coming out. And I was saying, you know, I don't know how they are going to replace real performers. Like, I have high hopes that they won't, because, you know, robots think inside the box instead of like outside the box with creative and all that stuff. And yeah, I just don't see that, you know, happening. So what do you think, Sid?
I'm with you 100%, and I hope that, because the AI, we were talking about a writing program I have, and I'll write something funny, and it has to be structured in a certain way that I would say it. And the AI program on my computer comes in and wants to put it in a correct structure, and it's not funny. It's like Larry the Cable Guy. It's like, get her done. Mm-hmm. It would say, well, let's complete this task.
Exactly.
That's not funny.
And it, yeah. So there's, I just don't see it happening. And then Sid was talking about the new cars coming out.
Yeah, the AI cars, self-driving cars.
Mm-hmm.
If you're late to the airport, you're not going to be able to get in the AI car and say, step on it. I'm late. If it says it's going to get you there at a time, that's what you're going to have. The car's going to be courteous with other drivers. It's going to stay in the lane. It's going to use its turn signal. You're going to be late. And I predict people will pay money for black market devices that will go around
I didn't even think of that.
the regulated speed. It's going to be a mess.
I think you're right. So where are you heading next there, Sid?
Hopefully to Charlotte tonight, and then I go to home. I fly to Cincinnati. I go with my cousin to a baseball game, and the next day I fly to Alaska.
Alaska. I've done a couple of runs out there. It's a beautiful, beautiful run. And we are on a 5-hour drive to the airport from Costa Maya to Cancun. Hopefully we make our flight.
Lianna's so bored that she's talking to me, so that's a long drive.
Well,
See,
I think he's pretty cool. I don't know what he's talking about.
AI wouldn't take that and say, we are spending the time.
He was like, you know, we should put this, we were talking about something, and he was like, maybe we should put that in a podcast. I was like, you know what, I'm going to start a podcast. So here we are.
We'll have to check in when we are in panic mode getting to the airport.
Exactly.
We're this close.
We are this close. We are going to make it, yeah. I think my flight will be boarding when we arrive. Question for you, Sid. What advice do you have to the young comics coming up?
The biggest thing I see is when you're starting out is word economy, where there's all these filler words to get from the premise to the punchline that's in that structure. And you'll find out that if you just cut this out and structure it to where you get right to a punchline, it's so much more effective. And I had that happen a couple times where I'd be in a club, I'm supposed to do a 7-minute set. They say, well, we're constraints on time, do 5 minutes. So I'll take the 7 minutes and I'll cut stuff out, cut the fat out. And then I'll realize I'll come off stage and they say, well, you did 7 minutes, where it was so much more effective and it got more laughter. That laughter takes up time. And so word economy, that's my joke. 3 words of advice. Word economy. I almost put up the wrong finger.
How long does it take you to write a good joke?
I always start off with something that's really funny, use that as a payoff, and then I'll go back and then write jokes that lead up to that payoff. So I'll make it a story. But some things have been sitting in there for years, and then you pull them out, put me in coach, and they work well with the other things that I've been doing. So for me, it takes years with jokes.
I've heard the same thing from other comics. It takes years and hours to write just a good one set.
But if you steal jokes, you can do it in about a day.
There you go. There's some good advice. Just steal
I've never done it. I'd like to say that for the record. Never done it.
Have you ever had any jokes stolen from you?
Yeah. And I can't right now. I can't remember which ones they were. And I've worked with people that I like. You know, there's parallel writing. You know, which that premise kind of lends there was the one about they made a law in Colorado the same day, gay marriage and legalized marijuana. And that punchline is, it makes sense because the Bible says anybody lays with another man will be stoned, which is funny.
Yeah.
And I heard a comic say it was funny. And then I get on YouTube and hear another comic say it, another comic.
Okay.
And I'm like, that is too close
I see.
to be thought of by two people. Maybe.
Yeah.
But then you listen to it and you're like, well, who thought of it first? I don't know.
Then you never know.
I always put jokes on Facebook and then change the privacy settings to private so nobody else sees it.
Oh.
So if somebody comes to me years later and says, that's my joke, I have a timestamp
There you
video.
go. There you go.
Saying,
That's smart. Put your thumbprint on it. Kind of like a copyright thing.
yeah. But it doesn't mean it's if
I was gonna say it, but it wouldn't. Yeah.
it's not like writing.
Yeah.
And I knew a performer, I won't say his name here because he's a great comic, known him for years. But he was in the green room at the Comedy and Magic Club, and Robin Williams came in to do a 5-minute set, which turned out always to be an hour. Everybody loved him, and then the comics went. And this guy was so thrilled that Robin Williams came in. And he goes, Robin, come in. He goes, I have a bit. He goes, oh, let me help you with it. And he went over this bit. And Robin goes, oh, that's funny. That's funny. Oh, that's great. And then he said, the next night he's watching The Tonight Show. And Robin Williams is on there killing with his bit.
I've heard a similar story to that.
Word for word.
Wow.
But once it's out on TV,
Ruthless.
that's his bit.
Right?
He went
Exactly.
on
Now
a-
that's his.
He went on a ship, did that bit, and someone said, I saw Robin Williams do that on The Tonight Show.
Oh my, that must just get under his skin.
Yeah.
That sucks.
And it happens all the time.
I bet. I do hear that with comics. Your stuff will be stolen.
Well, what we do is, if you're someone not famous like I am, this is about as famous as I'm going to be right here. But
Speaking of that, have you done any TV or anything?
I did a dry bar comedy special, and I got into comedy really too late.
Yes,
Sounds
tell
like a
us
com-
more. Tell us more about that. What made you want to get into comedy, and so late in your life?
I wanted to go out to California when I was a teenager. I had a job at NBC when I was 19 years old. I had a job as a tour guide at NBC Studios.
Wow.
And I drive out there to fill in my application. I get to Burbank and I'm sitting in front of her. Her name is Eva Hawkins. And she goes, she calls HR and says, I'm sending you this kid. He's going to be a tour guide. And his birthday. And she goes, it's blah, blah, blah. I'm not going to say it. What do you mean? I never got that memo. Well, and she hangs up. She goes, I'm so sorry. We just changed the minimum age to 21. So I went back home, and I was going to do the Comedy Store and all that thing.
I've heard of the Comedy Store.
Yeah, I was going to do that whole starve in LA and probably do a lot of drugs.
Yeah.
But I went back to Ohio with my tail between my legs, and I got a job in radio writing, and then I got married, and I got sidetracked for 30 years.
Wow.
And then once I retired from the airline, I got into Toastmasters and did well, and did comedy, and then just worked my way up.
And you worked on airplanes, you mentioned, or was it?
Yeah, I was a
right?
mechanic, so everybody just be very
Wow.
thankful that I retired. The skies are safer now.
That's
But-
awesome.
But I enjoy what I do, and then you realize, like everything else, you realize it's pretty hard. It's like watching people ski or play golf. It's like, well, how hard can that be?
Right.
It takes a lot of skill.
Yes, it
And
does.
what you do, I mean, it looks easy. No, it doesn't.
It takes many, many hours and days of practice, that's for sure. Years. And that's another thing we were talking about on the 2-mile gangway, walking to our cab, is not a lot of people see behind the scenes of what we got to do. You know, it's not just all glitz and glam. It's a lot of traveling and waiting, and it's a lot of work people don't see. So
I've had, you know how people put pins on a map? I mean, I could put a pin on the map of Lisbon, Portugal. But in reality,
I love that port. Have you been there?
yeah.
It's
But in
beautiful.
reality, it's the airport I've been to.
Right?
I've been to I'll put a pin in the Cancun airport. I probably want to throw a bazooka at it after the day to see what happens.
I was lucky enough to walk around in Lisbon. It was one of my favorite ports. It's beautiful.
London. I
Yeah.
know I got to see London last time. Before that, I'd only seen the airport.
What's your favorite place you've ever performed?
I think, Laughs Tucson
Okay.
is the Ice House in Pasadena.
And why were those your favorite?
There's certain clubs where the audience always gets it, and you'll go up on there, and this all builds on itself. Their first sentence, they're laughing at the setups. They just love to laugh. And the Ice House is the same way. But on the other hand, as a comic, you'll say, well, I was at the Ice House last night and I killed. And comics will say, well, everybody does at the Ice House. It just makes you feel good about what you're doing.
Right.
And Laughs Tucson is one of the hottest clubs in the nation.
I think after so many years too, you just you try to have fun no matter what the audience is going to be like. I know I do. I pump myself up. Do you get hecklers a lot?
Not much.
That's good.
I kind of dovetail it into what I'm talking about, because if I'm on a subject and I'm rolling and somebody says something, first of all, that heckling is not bad, because they're listening to what you're saying.
Right. It's a good sign, I guess.
And if the rest of my bit doesn't agree with that, I'll say, oh, no, let me tell you this. Or if it agrees with it, I'll say, you darn right, and here's why. And I just go right on with what I'm doing. It's so uncomfortable to say,
I was going to say,
shut up.
I would, yeah.
Now, you know what the worst is? It's just people chatting and not even listening.
Oh my gosh, I couldn't, yeah.
You talk to 99% of comics, they hate that more than anything.
Yes.
Or we'll do corporate events. We never perform well reading. But some of the big dollar events, they'll say, well, this is the time we have you perform while we're eating.
They're eating. I've been at one of those, a few of those.
And during the punchline, you look down, people are like cutting the steak.
I know.
I'm like, I'm really connecting now. I can't compete with Past the Salt, and we need more butter.
Yeah, we were talking about too, in where I work on the ship in Piazza, people walking by and stuff, and sometimes you'll get a lot of people on their phones or, drinking coffee and walking in front of you when you're performing. That's always fun.
Don't you want to take one of your things and just wrap their neck around?
I know.
Make a TikTok out of this. By the way, I was a gentleman today, and I'm here to tell you her luggage is an F. And she does it herself most of the time.
Yes, I do. That's fun. I have 2 cases that are about 100 pounds each, and then my hoop bag and my personal belongings. So, yeah, not everybody sees that part of the trip.
I travel light.
You guys are lucky, you comics, with the one bag. I envy you. That's for sure.
I have a whole bit about when I forgot to pack underwear, and I had to buy Progresso Mexico.
Well, don't share it because you don't know what comedian's watching.
Yeah.
You may steal it.
I'm not going to do it either. God forbid I write new material.
Yep. Well, I'll be back on the Enchanted in a couple of weeks, and I'll be with Rich Purpura. I believe that's how you say his name.
What are you saying? Rich was one of the first comics I ever saw on a cruise ship.
Wow.
And I saw him 30 years later, and I repeated his closing bit.
Nice.
Crackers in the hand, big finish. That's all I could remember. And he was like, "How did you remember that?" I wasn't a comedian at the time, but I was excited to see one, and he was good.
He is good. Yeah, he's great. And a great guy, too. Stand-up guy.
Oh, yeah.
Really fun to hang out with. Big personality. He has me rolling wherever we go, just with how he messes with people. we got on the elevator last week because he got on with me first, and then Sid got on after Rich, and we'd get on the elevator and he'd go, "Oh, sorry guys, I just passed gas." Just so embarrassing stuff like that. And he wouldn't miss a beat. He would just play the whole thing the whole time, and it was so funny though.
When I met Rich in 1994, he was in shape.
Oh.
He was in shape. He was the referee it was an NBA All-Star cruise. We had all these bitter, retired basketball players who had to do this to pay for ex-wives. That's what it was. And Rich was the referee of the basketball up there.
Oh.
And his waist was about that big around.
Wow.
And he was in
Well, I'd
shape.
love to see
I'm
where
sure
those
he loves me talking about that.
I heard he's been doing it since the 70s.
Oh, yeah.
Man.
They've had this thing where men would be with wives that made more money than they did. I'd never have a problem with that. As a matter of fact, in comedy, my wife, we survived on my wife's income.
Wow.
And so...
Well, starting out for sure, right?
Yeah.
When you started out. Because I know it's tough in the comic world when you're just getting started. It takes a long time for you to gain status wherever you go, right? So
it's an expensive hobby for a while.
I bet. I think that's in any field in the entertainment, though. You have to really pay your dues, and sometimes even when you pay your dues, you still don't make it to a status where it's a comfortable living.
Yeah.
You're really gone from gig to gig, and a lot of people don't realize that either. With being in entertainment, like, sometimes you'll perform your whole life to retire to nothing.
Yeah. And I've thought about that. Fortunately, I was prepared for that. I guess because of my age and all that. But when the pandemic came along,
Oh yeah.
I did fine. I was prepared for that.
Well, that's a good thing.
And I did the math, and I said, I think we're going to be okay.
You guys were blessed for sure.
Well, we had my wife has a teacher's salary, so that was coming in.
What a blessing.
Blessed with that.
Yeah.
So I had a to-do list. I'd get up every morning. I'd go read the paper, do something. I'd go do the to-do list, go play golf, come home, watch TV. My wife and I were binge watching. It was probably the best stretch of our marriage we'd ever had. And then my daughter moved back in, and it all went right down the drain.
I kept myself busy too during that time. I think if I didn't, I probably would have went nuts though.
My dad did well. He was an engineer for General Motors.
That's cool.
But I never knew it because we were always under the impression we didn't have any money, and everything was just cutting teeth to try to get $2 to go to a baseball game or something.
Wow.
But
See,
then,
my grandmother was like that, where she had all the money in the world, and she lived to 98, and she never enjoyed any of her wealth. And I always think to myself, like, well, what's the point of that?
Yeah. And I don't want to be like that.
No. Be smart, of course, with your money, and, save, and, but to be like, ooh, I can't do anything, and, it's not, I don't know, I don't feel like that's a healthy way of, or even an enjoyable way of living.
But my dad and mom, when we got older and I wanted to buy a house, and I didn't have the money for a down payment, but I showed my dad, I said, here's what I make every month. I was pretty responsible with money, a little bit. And he goes, I think that down payment's all a bunch of BS anyway, those points. And my dad went and got like $70,000.
Wow.
And it was a mortgage though. It wasn't a handshake. It was a legal mortgage and we signed for it. I was the youngest of 4 children. Now this is what's fun.
Wow.
It's not really, but they helped me out like that. And I was talking to my mom when she was in a retirement community. And my dad was gone and she like reminiscing. And she goes, we know we were tight with money when you were kids when you were small. But we were always happy to help you. Like we helped you buy a house and your sister went to law school and your brother bought a business and all that. And then she looks at me and goes, we're the most proud of you because you're the only one of the kids that paid us back. And I'm like, son of a... All of a sudden, I just felt $80,000.
Damn it!
Which is a horrible attitude, but justified.
See, but that's different though too. Like if you're saving because you want a better future for your kids and you want to help them out in the future, that's different to me, penny pinching or whatever. But yeah, my grandmother was the opposite. She was just greedy. She was like, you know, what is it? The Christmas movie, Scrooge.
Yeah. Nobody came visit her. The 3 ghosts didn't come and visit her.
No.
Did you get Christmas presents from her?
We did, but it was normally like, you know, plastic ice cubes. You know those plastic ice cubes you can put in and reuse?
Oh, the trays or the...
Those like the little gold, you know, they come in fish or any kind of different characters, and you put them, you just drop them in the freezer, and they have water in them. That's the kind of gifts that we would
That's
get.
Dollar Tree
Yeah.
stuff.
It is all dollar stuff.
When we had our son, and we had grandparents on both sides. And
That's nice.
I said, you get a bunch of stuff, the kids do. Their minds work this fast. All this stuff's a waste of money. See, I'm like that, right? So my son was...
It's not a waste, okay? They have fun for 5 minutes, and then
I know.
and then they set it aside and not play with it again.
But one Christmas, I think my son was 2.5, 3. I went to it was Odd Lots. We didn't have a Dollar Tree then. Boy, I would have tore that place up.
Yeah, right?
But I bought him a flashlight, you know, batteries.
Cute.
And what was he playing with? On into April, he went to bed every night with his flashlight.
I'm telling you, it's the simplest things that you buy, and sometimes even the cheapest, that they love the most. Isn't that funny?
Yeah.
It's so true.
And one time, I know it was April, because in April in Ohio, we had a tornado coming or a storm, and the lights were out. And we'd yell over to Andy's bedroom, like, bring your flashlight. So
How is that living, like, during I know with our hurricanes, it's pretty freaky.
you get complacent with it, because, you know, when I grew up with the technology, we didn't have Doppler radar or anything like that.
Yeah, so how would you guys even know?
Well, you had transistor radio.
Oh my gosh, I've heard those.
I mean, its voice is voice sound like
Transistor
you listen to baseball.
Remember that song?
And then you just hear that it's coming, and all those times that there's a tornado warning and nothing happened.
Okay.
And then just like the boy that cried wolf.
I was gonna say, and then it turns into that where you never know.
But I'm so old that I was talking to people the other day. I got these Bose headphones and I got Sirius XM radio, and I'm listening. And I grew up where all this music, I listened to it the first time. It was on an AM radio in a car that had one speaker.
Wow.
tracks, and they had the vinyl records. Listened to it on these stereos that had speakers the size of refrigerators. And I said, you know, in like 20 years from now, we're going to have all this music. It's going to be on a little disc, even music. And they looked at me like I just landed in a spaceship, and I was nuts. And I was, but I was right about that.
But you were, yeah, totally.
And they thought I was just making it all up.
Yeah, well, just like we were talking about before, too, before we started filming, all these new robots with the AI and stuff like that, I just came from Japan, and there were no waitresses. It was all run by robots. Like, this little robot came out with our food on the tray and all kinds of stuff like that. You check yourself out wherever you go. Convenience stores, all kinds of stuff that are just robots. And that's where we're heading, folks. So you better think about your job right now and what you could do different.
I'm worried. That's where these crow's feet come from. Right in the road.
No, there's so many strays everywhere. It's crazy.
You ever seen those dogs running around the ports? Like Costa Mayas, there'll be dogs running around.
All the time.
Yeah. And
I don't know if people
go,
can see it. I know. Well, I'm a dog lover.
I am
an animal lover, and I feel bad. Like, what do they do?
That dog, probably in a dog's mind, he just has the Playboy life.
I never thought of it that way either. Where, it may be other than searching for their food, but it may kind of be like the Lady in the Tramp thing, where she's all pampered and in the nice home, but he's actually, look, as we're talking, the one dog with the no leg.
Seems lucky.
I don't know about that one. But, and then that one has a hurt foot. I don't know. I feel like, yes, they may have the open, to the world life or whatever, like a more free life. But then again, there you go. Lose a leg.
I lived on a farm when I was a kid. We had a dog, a Springer Spaniel. And he'd go out into the woods, and he'd come back at the end of the day, and his hair would be full of burrs and all that.
Well, they're
Lord
hunters.
knows what he got into.
They're hunters by heart, I think, spaniels, aren't they?
Yeah.
I have a Jack Russell. He's a little hunter. He gets all kinds of rodents and lizards and frogs and tries to bring them inside.
Oh, really?
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Those are great little dogs.
I love him. He's so much fun. So hyper though. They can annoy people, or people like with my personality that just love dogs that are hype, have great personality. Other people love them, but yeah, he gets like in your face.
I had a friend who got a Jack Russell puppy, and she wrote me an email and said, I'm ready to throw this thing out the window. I want to take it
there
back.
There are some people,
But fast forward 6 months later, he's the love of my life. I can't do anything about it. His name
there
was
you go.
Lincoln. But to her, it's Bubba Chop Chop.
We had a Dalmatian one time, and he was so hyper. My dad, he could not take him. We had him for probably a week. They're one of the most hyper dogs like you'd ever have. And every time he'd get nervous around my dad because of, I don't know, just the energy. Sometimes, certain people carry energy around dogs. They feel it, right? And every time my dad would walk in the room, the dog would pee. And my dad would be like, no, don't pee, don't. And he would pee everywhere because he'd get nervous around my dad. And we ended up giving him to the firemen when we were living in Las Vegas. And they gladly took him, but my
What's
dad
with
was
the Dalmatians in the fire trucks?
I don't know.
What's
Maybe,
the connection?
I think because of their energy.
They pee on the fire. 1,000 of them lifting their leg up.
about 30 minutes away from our airport. So wish us luck. Hopefully we get home today. I'd like to thank Sid here.
It's been a fun trip.
Yeah.